It's not just about doing digital marketing, it's about making your digital marketing more effective for your consulting business, which means how do we engage more of the better type of clients specifically that we're after, and how do we increase those fees. So today on the show, I want to show you how to do that with your consulting practice, because the way you do digital marketing in other industries is very different than the way you would do it in an advisory business. For 27 years now, I've been working in the space of digital marketing, and I've worked in 200 different industries and sectors, and the consulting space is actually one of the most challenging, and certainly was when I first learned it, to engage not only clientele, but in a way that you were the mentor when you came into an engagement. And so how you do digital marketing as a consultant is very different to the way you would do digital marketing as an e-commerce provider or even a service provider. And so the things that I want to show you today are going to really be the ultimate guide for how you should be approaching your digital marketing for your consulting practice. So let me show you the 3 things that are going to be the most important for you to be focusing on right now. All right, so we've got the handy dandy board, and I'll show you right here the 3 aspects that we're going to focus on for your consulting practice. Number 1, it's going to be thought leadership. And thought leadership is not just about talking about stuff. It's about being very, very clear about who we're talking to. So it's for who, or if you're that person, it's for whom. So thought leadership becomes a large part of the way that we will engage people to. It's not really about our expertise. I mean, sure, you need to have them to be an expert in your space. And if you're feeling a bit funny about being thought of as a thought leader or an expert in your space, then you really need to assess what you're selling. Because at the end of the day, you're selling guidance and expertise. Now, if you are trading in expertise, then by definition you are an expert. So start getting comfortable with that and start sharing what you've got. Often I hear the question, if I start sharing all my stuff, why would people need me? Well, it's because information is in abundance now. It's not that people need information. They need your point of view. And it's your wisdom that they'll be paying for. It's your support, guidance, and encouragement along the way when you're no longer just delivering a service, when you're no longer just working for the hours, when you're actually being an advisor and a mentor to people. That's what they actually want in this day and age. The information age is now past. We're now at a point where the people are looking for wisdom, and you as the consultant have the opportunity to give that to them. So it's not just about information, which means that there's 2 reasons to do thought leadership. Is one, so that people know that you know what you're talking about, but the second is so that they feel understood. So who you're talking to when you're giving context to the information that you're delivering is really, really key. So in the way that I deliver it to consultants, I'm understanding that consultants are not doing gigs. They're not looking for jobs. And if they are, it means that things are not working the way that they should be. They're looking for contracts. They're looking for retainers. They're usually solo practices. They're people who have a depth of expertise. And ideally, they are here to help people. Sure, make money along the way. Absolutely to have a professional lifestyle that they love. But they're here to help others. So the third benefit of actually doing thought leadership is it enables you as the expert to start thinking contextually about your audience and how to communicate things with them. Now, the more that you practice that, the more that, number 1, they will feel understood, they will give you opportunities to help them, and finally, you will be able to understand the audience and the application of your expertise so much better. Number 2 is about having intentional next steps. Intentional, right? That's what that says, believe it or not. Let's talk about intentional next steps or intentional steps. What are the steps that people will go through from being a complete stranger to becoming a client? Now, we've talked about in the past, know, like, and trust, and someone needs to know you to decide if they like you and then ideally trust you for a lifetime of business. There's a bit of a process there, and if we overlaid other processes over the top, it would be awareness, consideration, and decision making. But through the process, we want to understand what are we actually doing to move people along, because digital marketing, and I'm just going to write it in the middle, digital marketing is a term that sort of most people see as a place for e-commerce. And it's not just about e-commerce. In fact, it's not even about selling product at all. And when it comes to selling your expertise, it's much more about engaging the prospect in a conversational dialogue so that you can work on diagnostic, right? You can start to diagnose the issue that people are having, which means that if you've got intentional steps that you're leading them through, number one, they're starting over here at stranger and they're going all the way through to client. Now, the way they get through to client, if we were to actually look at having a gateway or a couple of flags that they go through, this is the conversation. We'll call it a short chat. The point of sale for you as an expert, the point of sale for you as a consultant in your consulting business is a conversation. And so if your intentional steps between them going from stranger to engaging in some of your work, to understanding a little bit more about who you are, to having a conversation, all roads lead to here. So the intentional step is, how do we want to have a conversation with them? Some people are trying to avoid having the chat. They're trying to avoid having a conversation with clients until they are fully qualified and ready to go. And I'm seeing probably more of this in the mortgage broking industry than any other. And it's a reflex from high touch, things take me too long, to high tech, I can get hyper leveraged, but at the same time that leverage creates efficiencies but not effectiveness. And so still, effectiveness will trump the efficiencies if you actually value the outcomes that you're delivering for people. So rather than working to the clock, rather than working for the man, rather than working by the hour, you as the consultant who actually wants to get bigger clients, higher fees, ideally is going to be working towards outcomes and responsibilities. So how can you engage those? Well, you need to be in a position where you can design something with that client rather than productize or pitch or try and create something off the shelf, which means that you're no longer the mentor, you're a supplier. Yeah. And so having intentional next steps to enable them to work through a conversational then diagnostic process is going to get you there. So the intentional next steps are key. Now, if you're interested to know more about those, we teach those inside the Forge Business Program. If you don't know about that, literally ask me the question. I will show you how we do it. So the third step when it comes to creating your digital marketing plan is very much around what are the digital assets, the suite of tools that you have to engage people along those steps. So we'll say digital assets. Now, which assets should you choose? Well, it very much depends on who the market is and where they are. So if you are, let's say, a process consultant or even a business consultant of all sorts, you might want to actually work with any type of business because it's not really, you're not specifically niching into your target market. By not niching, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because it's so much easier to go specifically to a specific market rather than to speak generally to everybody. But let's say that you are going generally to everybody. It means that you need to be on platforms where at least that business audience is. Now, the most obvious one is going to be something like LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn can be fantastic. It's amazing for research. It's amazing for connecting. The problem with LinkedIn is how often people are on the platform. So the average person is on the LinkedIn platform once every 2 weeks, which means that if you miss them in one back and forth on a chat conversation, you might not have a conversation for an entire month. And so it's so much easier to take people off the platform if you possibly can, which means that the digital assets and the digital suite of tools that you create are going to help you to do that. So I'm going to actually, I know I just wiped it off, but let me put up the process again, where we go from stranger to client. There's going to be these steps that they go through. And here somewhere we're going to have the conversation. But let's say we go back a few steps. We might have over here, what's a first digital asset that we might have? Well, it could be our profile. And that could be on LinkedIn, for instance, where people can find us and we can connect with people, which is even more important than being found, as we can connect. So once they've got the profile, other assets that we've got are articles. Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's a video program. There's all sorts of different things that we can have to engage them in an awareness channel. But from there, we want to create leads. And the way to create leads is through lead magnets. Now, if you don't know what a lead magnet is usually a digital asset which you can download, and people will download it once they put in a name, and an email address at the least. You can also ask for anything. So you could ask for a phone number. You could ask for the answer to a question. There are so many different things that you could ask if the item is valuable enough. Now, most people who are doing lead magnets will do something like giving away a white paper or a guide or a checklist or something of that nature. Now, my suggestion is to make your lead magnets as potent and as powerful as possible, which means that you want them to be things that really your prospects want. They really want to get their hands on this thing, so they're willing to give over something of much higher value. Now, what's so good about lead magnets and landing pages? Well, the cool thing about lead magnets and landing pages is that on a website, which will be one of your digital assets, the average conversion, and I'm just talking to something like maybe filling in a contact form, is usually less than 1% on the majority of consulting websites that I see. Now, that's not great, but the average internationally is 2.3% conversion, including e-commerce, Amazon, and a whole bunch of other website types. Learning to speak Pearson. So the question is, if the process is that low or the conversion rate is that low, that means that you're going to have at least 100 people visit without actually using that to get a connection. Now, the reason that happens on a website is because a website by its very nature is a series of links. They are archived together, and usually there is a menu. There is also links throughout the page. And so even if you've got a good website, someone will go to your website, they'll start reading around, they might click on a link, they'll go to another page, they'll go, oh, that looks pretty good. Someone yells at them in the background, they walk off to deal with it, they come back and they forgot while they were there. So human nature and life gets in the way of websites working because it's really easy to get distracted. So on a landing page, which you actually put in place for leads, you would do it very differently. So a landing page is a website, but it's a single page. So on that single page, we don't have navigation and we only have one link. That one link will be to click to download or click to put in your details to download the thing. So it's very binary. People can either do the thing that they have to do on the page or leave. They can't research. They're not clicking around and finding out more information. In fact, some of the best landing pages won't have more information to scroll down to. We don't want them to research there. And so that's why landing pages, even the average ones, are converting above 30%. We've got some of our landing pages converting above 80%. And so landing pages are a really good tool for you to have in your digital assets, as well as the lead magnets that go with them. So if you don't have that, that is definitely a recommendation. Most people think that it's a website, but usually you want people to land on a landing page and become a lead, which means that they will then come into your email. You've now got contact with them and can speak back and forth via email and invite them to this conversation. You can even not even invite them to the conversation until they're qualified. You might have a conversation back and forth on that email. And so it creates this really good opportunity for you as a professional to even start some of that diagnostic process before you're actually on a call. Now, the suite of digital assets will be different for every different person's process. But generally, there will be an awareness step. How can people find me? Right? You've got to have a digital asset to be found. Now, some people might say, well, then I would do search engine optimization for people to find me on my website. But here's the challenge. I don't even think I've got it on me. If you look at your phone and go and search up your topic of expertise, you'll see that there are already listings there that are ads. And so, in fact, you can't even see an organic listing, which is what search engine optimization does. It creates organic listings. You can't see that without scrolling, which means that you've got, all right, well, do I do search engine optimization, which is a lot of effort for very little return, or do I pay for advertising? Well, you might want to pay for advertising, and advertising would be more effective in that scenario. But what I've found is the website is the asset of the past, not the future. And so the asset of the asset of the future is content creation. So in actual fact, thought leadership around creating communities, around creating podcasts and video series like the one I'm doing right now, How can you bring people to you because they're searching for information on a topic? So rather than being scared about they may steal this information and they may use it, think of the other 80% of people, or even flip it. So the 20% of people who see your stuff that don't DIY it, don't do it themselves, and actually call out to you. So let's say 80% of people go and take it and use it themselves. Fantastic. You would never have had them before, and they probably would have tried to do it themselves anyway. But that means you have the additional 20%. We're talking big numbers. There's thousands of people are going to reach out to you to see if you might be able to help them. And that's the position to take. Rather than to jump on them and go, I can help you. Here's the thing I've got for you. To actually sit back, be the consultant, and actually take them through a diagnostic process to see if you should be working together and if now is the right time. Again, we teach all these processes inside the Forge, so if you want to know more detail about the sales process itself, you can reach out and ask me more. But these are your 3 steps. If you are willing to do thought leadership, then you'll be able to get the position within the market. If you're clear about the intentional next steps, you're not just going to be posting and praying, which is what so many experts are doing out there. They're posting and they're not sure why they're posting. They think that they're doing it for exposure without realizing that once they've got exposure, they can now bring people away from wherever the platform was that they found them and through to an email address. And by doing that, they can start a conversation. So intentional steps. From there, making sure that we have the right digital assets and they are ideal for the who that we're trying to speak to. So within that context, we have a look at our prospect and we say, where are they? Where do they hang out online? What community groups are they parts of? What platforms do they use? And then we make our suite decision. So the decision on our asset, our suite of digital assets, based off where they are. Because the amazing thing is, as long as you can get in front of somebody who is the right prospect, your offer could actually be pretty average. But because it's in front of the right people, you'll still get people to take it up. If you've got the best offer, but no one who is qualified can see it, you'll have nobody say yes. And so these are 3 considerations to take on board for you in your consulting practice. But I'd love to know, what is your most effective digital asset right now for your business? Put it in the chat below. Share it. I'd love to actually hear why it's effective for you, because there's so many different ways to actually develop a digital marketing strategy. And finally, I want to say the key to really refining and personalizing your digital marketing strategy is to align it, especially in a solo business, to things that you enjoy doing. So if I take thought leadership, for instance, I've already talked about the benefits of doing it, but how you do it ideally should fit with your preferences and your personality. So if you like to speak, then potentially something like a podcast could be ideal for you. If you like to write, well, maybe it's authorship, maybe it's articles, maybe it's email marketing. All these things are incredibly valuable. If you like to be on camera and to share, visuals and the like, then something like YouTube channel or something like a video series may be the best bet for you. There are so many different avenues that you can go down around how to produce and how to publish these different ways of communicating. And so I think your preferences and the things that you enjoy doing should be part of your decision-making process. So those are the 3 most important aspects that you need to know before you start planning out your digital marketing strategy. And if you've got any questions, make sure to go to the comments and leave them below. I'll drop in and actually answer them for you, or at least point you in the right direction. Until next time, my name's Russell Pearson. This has been episode 80 of the Your Consulting Business podcast. Until next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.